Fantastic. So we're good to go. So Sarah, this is the first ever consultational session that we've ever had together. How are you feeling about it, sort of going in for the first time?
I'm quite nervous, actually. Yeah.
That's really, really common. And thankfully, there's nothing to be nervous about. It's very, very difficult to mess this process up unless you suddenly start throwing your laptop across the other side of the room or something like that, which I'm sure we're not going to do.
No.
And so I don't know what it is that we're working on today. So this is going to be a little bit unusual because it's not going to be a standard session. Normally when someone has a standard SBT session, they would have had some sort of initial consultation. They would have been gathering a few pieces of information beforehand. So they have a bit more of an idea as to what they're going in on. But I sort of want to show you, to show myself, to show everyone who's watching this, that actually once you've got the skills to be able to know what you're doing, you can actually do this sort of off the bat. That's what's wonderful about this tool. You really can do it in an impromptu way. And so just before we sort of really get, I suppose, getting delved into it in the deepest way possible, if I can actually make sense using English today, is what would be your greatest hopes for our session today? We get to the end of the session and we go, God, that was exactly what I was hoping it could do. Can you give me a little bit of a flavor as to what that might look like for us?
In the fact that how I would feel afterwards and the change. So
Yeah,
basically what we're looking at trying to do today.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Basically speaking the truth and not being held back through fear of things like rejection and feeling stupid and basically not being shouted at, and just want to be able to say things uninhibited, and maybe not uninhibited.
There's a limit to that, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, just being liberated. And actually, when I want to speak something, actually, just when I know that I should be doing, there's a block there
Okay.
in certain situations, I suppose.
Wonderful. So this is obviously something that will absolutely test itself over time, over the next couple of weeks. And what do you think could happen in today's session alone that would allow you to know, okay, something has absolutely shifted? I can't exactly explain why, but I know something's happened.
I probably feeling the confidence inside of me that I know that I can do it, which sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Because I don't know how I'd be able to measure that, but it's something I'd feel like something maybe inside of me has shifted confidence-wise.
Okay, perfect. So there's a few things I sort of want to almost like stop on immediately. So Sarah came to us and she said, I want to be able to speak my truth. And remember, when we're sort of doing any coaching elements here, deep down what we're trying to do is we're trying to work out what the hell are our clients actually talking about, right? When someone says speak my truth, if Sarah and I were to sort of draw speaking her truth on a piece of paper, would we end up drawing the same image? Chances are not yet. But what she then did really, really nicely is she started explaining in more detail what that looks like in terms of behaviors, which gives us a little bit more clue. A little bit more of a clue, sorry. So what I want to know though is how can we actively test this over the next week? So not just in this session can she feel like a shift has been made. She knows in her life that a change has actually been made as well. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you, are there any situations that you think could occur this following week where, you know, actually the Sarah from last week, she probably wouldn't be able to do what I'm probably hoping to do this week? Is there a way that we can test this together?
Well, yeah, I suppose tonight in the masterclass, if I've got a question that I want to really ask, not being afraid to ask it, and I'll just go ahead and do it.
Perfect. Okay. So we've got this wonderful point B that we've already set up together. Just for context, Sarah has literally just started in the last week or two with Superconscious University, like learning this process. And am I right, Sarah, in thinking this is the first time you've actually experienced the process yourself today?
Yeah, I have, and I've just lost you on Zoom.
Okay. Oh,
It
have you got me back?
froze.
Have you got me back okay?
No, I haven't.
And has my face frozen? I'm assuming my audio is still coming
There we
through.
go. I've got you back now. Oh no. Keep some. There you go. Right, got you back.
Okay.
You did freeze and then you disappeared, but now
Okay.
I've got you back.
Well, the good news is when we do any like elements of the actual superconscious breakthrough, you'll have your eyes closed and you won't need to see me. As long as the audio is coming through fine, it'll be great. What I can do in the session is I can actually turn my video off during the actual process so that it helps with the streaming a bit as well. So I don't have any concerns there. So, Sarah, am I right in thinking that you haven't actually experienced superconscious breakthrough therapy at all before?
No, not at all.
Okay. So we might be understanding some of the very basic 30,000 foot overview of theory, but we don't know what it's like to actually go through it yet.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Okay, really cool. It's a privilege to be able to be the first person to sort of take you through this then. So Sarah gave an example then of coming to the class tonight. She would be able to just put a question out there completely uninhibited, to a certain degree, and being able to confidently ask questions, knowing that that fear of being stupid or feeling stupid or coming across stupid just is no longer present. Is that a fair way of sort of framing what we want to be able
Yeah,
to achieve,
yeah,
Sarah?
yeah. I'd also add a little bit of yeah, feeling stupid, yes, I suppose, and fear of oh, it's really hard to put into words, isn't it? Um, Getting it wrong, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, getting it wrong. Okay, so you're leading us perfectly then to that gap. We know where point A already is. We know where point B is. And by the way, as a quick side note, Sarah, you're making this really easy for me, so I very much appreciate that. But the next thing we want to do is we want to work out what are the gaps. Because right now we've got a really simple action of just being able to say my truth, just being able to ask the question.
Mm.
But right now there's going to be some sort of emotion that's causing a block. And we know that emotion is normally sitting on top of a story that feels true to some
Mhm.
extent, right? And it feels like that some of those stories, and I could be wrong, Sarah, that fear of feeling stupid might be one of the emotions. If we could pop that fear on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being like, Scott, you don't understand the level of intensity and fear that I feel in my body in that moment. 0 being, no, I don't really feel any fear when I think about the idea of being stupid. What number instinctively comes up for you on that scale?
Between 9 and 10. Mm.
Okay. So we've got a tasty one. We know that we're on the right track.
Actually going to say a 10 because I do know this is a really big one that's been throughout my life, and I know that this is something I really want to shift.
Okay. Perfect. So we've got a good old 10 right there. So we know that's a nice spicy number that we absolutely want to do some work on. If
Mhm.
there's anything that's like a 5 or lower, it may be a contributing factor, but it's not going to be like the game changer. It's not going to be the thing that's really going to be responsible for the leverage we want to pull on today. So we've got that fear as a 10. And what's fascinating about that is we're using a scale that doesn't really exist.
Mm.
Like 0 to 10 of fear. It's we're trying to quantify something that's really difficult, and yet there is something within you that instinctively knows it's a 10 and it's not a 3.
Yeah.
Right? So would it be fair to say that by the end of the session, we're going to be able to know somehow, we might not know exactly why, but we're going to know that that number is going to have shifted.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you mentioned that fear of feeling stupid. That's at the moment, that's a 10. There's probably some other beliefs that are going to be attached to that. We're going to be able to sort of treat those today. I have no concerns about that. But you mentioned something else that I really love, which is the fear of getting it wrong.
Mm.
Now, do they feel like two separate things to you?
The fear of getting it wrong and feeling stupid?
Yeah.
No, I think they're quite intermingled.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to frame the fear of getting it wrong to something else. I want to see if this lands. Generally, when we're working with people, whatever they're coming to us with, if we follow the garden path back to what the source of those fears or those beliefs are, normally there's a handful of like key limiting beliefs. They're normally, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, I don't belong, or I/it has to be perfect. And so I'm a little bit curious that I or it has to be perfect, 0 to 10. How true does that feel when I say that?
Probably about an 8.
Okay. Right. Now, you didn't say that with the same level of certainty that you said the first one. So what happened there?
I think it's the word perfect. I know I'm not a perfectionist.
Okay.
I know I don't necessarily really want to be a perfectionist, but I think the answer that I give needs to be perfect.
Hmm.
And if it's not, that's where I will then feel stupid and then feel inadequate rather than stupid, rather, I suppose, and feel like I've made a mistake.
Okay. So I'm going to use a phrase that you used earlier that maybe I should have picked up on more was I need to get it right.
Yeah, the one that you said before, the capable one, that's
Yeah.
really, really a biggie.
Okay. So I'm not capable, 0 to 10. How true does that feel?
10.
Okay. I want to just double check this one as well. So I'm not enough. What number comes up for you there?
Yeah, I'd probably say about a 7.
Okay, so it's there. It's definitely something that we would probably consider working on
Mm,
another session. But compared to the eights and the tens that you've been mentioning, probably not going to be the high priority ones in this
no.
session for now. Okay. And again, I always find it fascinating. For some reason, we just know. We know that's a 10, that's a 7, that's a 3, that's not there, right?
Yeah, I think with the 7, it's because I know in other parts of my life I'm good enough, but
Yeah.
there are certain ones where areas that I know I'm not quite good enough.
Okay. And yet I'm not capable seems to just be so much stronger, probably across those
Mm-hmm.
domains.
Mm-hmm. And it's linked in with I always try my hardest, but I never get quite where I want to be, or I never get quite to the top. So I don't feel like I am capable of doing it. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So what Sarah's just done there is she just had a belief, and then straight after that belief, she provided a little bit of evidence as to why that's true. And so one of my favorite examples or images for the idea of a belief actually comes from, I can't remember the exact Tony Robbins book, but I think it might be an NLP term actually, where people talk about belief being like a table. And for a table to stand, it needs to have legs. And so for a table to be really strong and solid, it probably needs to have more legs. And now there's a few different ways to try to dismantle belief. One is to try and rip away the legs from a particular table, or it's to create an opposite belief that has more legs on the table than this one. So at the moment, Sarah, she hasn't said this out loud, but she's just sort of implied to us now that, okay, I have this belief, but look, here's why. Because she's just given us a couple of little legs to sort of go underneath that table. She said, there's times in the past where I've absolutely tried to do this and I can't get to where I need to be. And clearly that must mean dot, 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 because I'm not capable. So that lets us know that there's going to be some memories there. Now, what I could try to do if I was just a normal coach is I could try to get Sarah to now find legs to support the other table. I could say, well, okay, Sarah, I understand that you've got some evidence for this table of I'm not capable to exist, but there's going to be, I know this for a fact, there's going to be other experiences that she would have had in her life where she would have been able to surpass her expectations or meet her expectations, but they're not the ones that are standing at the forefront. And so this could take a couple of hours to be able to help her move this belief at a conscious level. We're not going to do that today. We're going to do something that's going to basically achieve more of a result in a fraction of the time. But you'll see for yourself shortly. So I'm not capable is a 10. Sarah, what's the lowest that has ever been in your life, do you feel? At least in your adult life?
Lowest in what way?
So I'm not capable is a 10 right now. Has it
Yeah.
ever, do you ever remember it being a 0 at any point in your life?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose it depends what I'm thinking about, really. I suppose capable, I think I'm talking more about academic. I'm talking about learning. Whereas capable as a parent, that's really shifted. So I do feel like I am fairly capable, I'm not going to say very capable, fairly capable. And that's something that's grown in the last few years. Um, and I'm capable of doing. Isn't it funny now? I'm capable of doing other things. I'm quite an independent person, and if I put my mind to it, I will fix things, or if I can, and what have you. So yeah, this is all to do with my perceived intelligence of myself, and I suppose it's going more towards the academic rather than emotional, because I do think I am fairly emotional intelligent compared to other people. Well, I'm saying other people in my family. So again, I'm straight away comparing myself, and I know where this has come from. It's obviously from my sister. I've been in a very academic household. I've brought up in an academic family, or that was seen as to be the pinnacle, and it was really kind of appreciated, I suppose. And my sister was always far more academic than me. Yet she's not as emotionally intelligent as me.
Okay. So right now we can see that Sarah started to unpack that for herself, and she's now giving evidence as to why she is capable. What we've been able to do now is we've been able to hone in on the real issue that's stopping her from being able to speak her truth in these settings. It's because in these settings where she's attending Superconscious University or any training school or learning a skill, she has to apply herself academically. Right?
But I'm also going to throw something into the mix now. Sorry, Scott.
No, please do. More the merrier.
In regards to speaking my truth, though, that is within relationships, and I'd say probably more of a intimate romantic relationship than anything else as well. I've learned to do it with my friends, and I've learned to do it with my family, to say no, and also to say I can't do this, whatever. But with in a different type of relation, in a more intense type of relationship, that's where I feel like I hold back and I don't speak my truth either. So there's two: there's the academic, and then there's a very, like, I suppose, a very personal relationship.
Okay, interesting. So Sarah has technically now given us two different goals. At least they appear different. So I want to double check again that question. What the hell are we actually talking about? I want to work out, okay, one, what's actually going to make the difference maker for her today? Because there might be some sessions that we do on some other pieces later on. But two, is there a way that we can work out those two goals of speaking my truth in relationship and being able to apply myself and speak up academically? Is there a link between those two where we could technically hit both of those goals in today's session? So there may be, there may not be, but let's find out. So when we speak about any potential links between those two pieces of speaking your truth in any other kind of relationship or speaking your truth in an academic setting, do you think that there's any kind of link related to those, or do they feel in your mind like maybe two separate pieces?
No, I think it comes down to how I would feel in uh, in both situations. If I were to say a question or ask something academically and I would feel inadequate, I suppose it's the fear of getting it wrong and thinking the other person thinks that this is a hard one, isn't it? Think that the other person thinks that I'm probably not worthy of being there. And then in a sort of maybe intimate relationship, it's probably, I'd say, maybe more a fear of rejection than thinking that I was not uh, not the person that they thought I was, or they would again, I would then feel stupid if they were to say, and I think it's something. I think it's something linked with confrontation as well. There, I don't like the confrontation. So I suppose for the intimate relationship, it's confrontation, and the academic, it's the feeling of inadequacy. I suppose, not being able to grasp something.
So you used a very particular word there as you were explaining that, and it ties into one of the other key limiting beliefs that we didn't delve into yet. I'm just going to put it out there to see if something lands or resonates. That statement, I'm not worthy, 0 to 10, I don't want you to rationalize it, just instinctively what number feels right for you.
In an academic setting, or just generally, I'm not
Just generally that statement.
probably about a 7 or an 8.
Okay. So beforehand, when we said I'm not enough, it was a 7. For I'm not worthy, it was a 7 or an 8. So it's starting to cross into that threshold. Now, the way that this superconscious breakthrough therapy generally works, and this is my favorite thing about it, is we don't necessarily need to delve in to try and find every individual thread and treat every individual thread. Very often, if there's like 5 or 6 or 300 threads attached to one idea, if we ask the superconscious to find all aspects related to that idea, it will find and treat all the threads for us. So it's almost like the lazy person's dream of being able to say, actually, I don't need to go into the very, very deep roots where suddenly we can start bringing up all these horrible feelings. I only need to go 1 or 2 layers deep to go, I think we can get that. So hypothetically then, so if the fear of getting it wrong, I think 0 to 10, what number is that again?
Oh, 10.
There we go. So the fear of getting it wrong, we definitely want to treat that if it's a 10. And the feeling and the statement, the idea, the concept, I'm not capable. And again, what we'll do is the superconscious will treat all aspects. So I know that so far we've been speaking predominantly about like academic capabilities, but generally I'm not capable. What number would you give to that again?
Yeah, 8.
Okay. So when you said 8, then is
Actually,
that
no, I'm going to change it 9.
okay? So something has changed in the way that you thought about that statement between the first time and the second time. Is it because you've started to remember the other ways that you're capable outside of academia?
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
perfect. So we've got sort of an 8 or a 9, so it's still a high one. So let's say that I'm not capable went down to a 0, the fear of getting it wrong went from a 10 down to a 0, and I'm not worthy went from an 8 down to a 0. What else do you think, if anything, would be stopping you from being able to speak your truth in settings like the class or potentially in a relationship?
See, this is the bit that I'm not too sure about, because and this is obviously why a lot of people come to therapy, because they know there's something there, but they're not quite sure. And I've got a feeling it's something to do with rejection. I've got a feeling, something. There's something there to do with rejection, but I don't quite know what it is.
Okay. If we just said the fear of rejection, 0 to 10, how true does that feel?
Yeah, 9.
Okay, so that feels a good 9. So what we might do then is, generally when we're working with someone, we don't want to overload it. Remember, generally when we work with someone, we don't work with them for several sessions on the same thing. It's just not necessary. But very often we want to work out, okay, if they want to achieve X, Y, Z, what we've been speaking about, and this is the fascinating piece, and you've highlighted it perfectly with bringing rejection to the table almost at the last minute, is because when you start to clear the forest fire, so the things that you definitely know about, that this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, once that big boulder has been moved, you get to see the other things behind it with more clarity. That fear of rejection and the pieces behind it would become clearer once the I'm not capable and all that noise is no longer there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
But I want to see if there's a way that we can actually try and tie that into some of the other work that we're doing today, just to see how much we can neutralize these pieces. And so when it comes to the trance itself, and when it comes to the superconscious work we're about to do, Sarah, the good news is that there's really only 2 ways to mess it up. It really is only 2 ways. Now, what's handy about this is that the first time that you go through this process, going back to that wonderful word that you used at the beginning of the session, which is those nerves, it's naturally, those nerves come from a feeling of, am I going to get it right? And is it going to work? Right? Especially if, okay, I've invested this time and energy and I feel like the pressure's on now, because actually people might watch this. There's no pressure, Sarah. Like, it's absolutely fine. In fact, the first time that someone goes through a process like this, there's often that little inner dialogue or inner monologue even at the back of the mind that might go something like this. I can hear what he's saying. Wait a minute. Does that mean that this isn't working? Wait a minute. What did he just say? I feel like I just missed that. Wait, I was thinking about what I had for breakfast yesterday. Wait a minute. Does that mean that it's not going to work because I didn't hear that thing? Or maybe I'm not too, am I supposed to be relaxed? Actually, I didn't think about it. There's that thing on my back there and all of those like noises, all of those statements there, for goodness sake, just let them happen. It's not going to disturb the process at all. You really can think about what you had for breakfast 2 days ago the entire time. If you want to, you can be thinking, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, on repeat. It doesn't bother me, because that's not a required piece to get this to work. There's only 2 things that I'm going to ask you to do or not do. One is, if you actively try to resist everything I say, I say, Sarah, take a big breath of me, and close your eyes, and you go, no, progress just stops immediately in that moment, as you can imagine. And the second part, which is more interesting, is if you try too hard to make it work. So sometimes when people are really desperate to make it work, there's almost like this like jaw clenching level of focus where they're sort of staying intently like, right, okay, I'll sit like this and I'm ready for the next instruction, sir. And there might be times, Sarah, where I ask for, it could be for like a hand to float down or for one of your fingers to twitch. You don't need to try and do a damn thing. You really don't. A little bit like the self-awareness that you've brought to this session, just become a bit of a curious observer in your body. And second of all, just enjoy it. Right? We're here. We're going to see something amazing happen. We might as well just enjoy the process while we're going through. It's fun. And what I will say, just before we start to really go into more detail with this, there is nothing we can do today that goes any faster than what all parts of you deem as safe.
Okay.
So we're not going to be disturbing any comfort. You've made a huge decision by actually showing up and committing to this process today. That's enough for your subconscious mind to be like, okay, I think we're here to actually get some work done. But we can't pull you into levels of discomfort. That's not the way that this process works. So nothing is going to happen any faster than you feel comfortable with it happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Any questions before we start the process?
No, I think so.
Ideal. So are you ready to go to that superconscious space?
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. So, and what I might ask you to do, Sarah, is first of all to get yourself nice and comfortable in that chair. And if it's possible, if it's not the end of the world. But if there's any way that we can maybe either move the laptop or tablet back a little bit further, just so I can see a bit more of you. Because at the moment I'm seeing this delightful floating head, but I can't see much more of you.
I might have to do it this way. I don't.
That's right. Is there a way to tilt the camera down slightly? As long as I can see sort of the tops of your eyebrows and just ideally sort of the shoulders and a little bit more, that would be ideal.
Is that way the better way? Or that
Down,
way?
down the other way if that's
Way?
possible. Yeah, possible.
That
One,
better or not? Or I,
wonderful.
I can't really see. I'm just gonna. Oh,
That's
you
okay.
see, every time I go off this button, I sort of lose you. So I can't see my camera.
It's okay. So what I'm seeing here is absolutely fine. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes people like to pop. It could be a blanket on their lap or a pillow on their lap if they get
Are
one.
you there?
Now she is set up and ready to go. That's what we like to hear. So I'm going to be a real pain in the neck, and we're going to start by me. Well, as if I haven't been a pain in the neck already, to be honest. But I'm going to ask you to start doing something that you just won't be able to. And I find this really fascinating because the more that you fail to do what I'm about to ask, the more you'll naturally succeed at going into the space that inevitably we want to be able to get to. So what I want you to do, Sarah, is with your left hand. Are you left-handed or right-handed, first of all?
I'm right-handed.
Perfect. So your left hand then, just if you pop that, just really allow it to relax just by your side. It can relax on your lap. It can just sit on the blanket, under the blanket, wherever you feel comfortable. It doesn't need to do anything today. And that right hand, in a moment, I'm going to ask you, you don't need to do it yet, but I'm going to ask you to pop your hand up as if you were swearing an oath in court. And your fingers and thumb will be stuck together just like this. So if you just want to do that for me now, pop that up, swear that oath in court, keep those fingers and thumb together, and just move that just in front of you so you can find a spot to focus on the back of that hand. Lovely. Now, I don't need you to say anything. I don't need you to do anything, Sarah. Just give me a nod once you've got that spot. Perfect. Now, in a moment, not yet, but only when I say the word go, your job will be to, as slowly as possible, and I mean think about how slowly a flower opens, it'll be to separate all of those fingers smoothly and think about how smoothly a flower opens. But your job will be to keep the distance the exact same between each of those fingers, and you're going to fail to be able to. But I want you to put all of your effort into it, starting, go. Slower, Sarah, much slower. There we go. Slow, like a flower. And you're already screwing it up, but that's perfect because I want you to try a little bit harder for me now. There we go. Now, I don't know which one of those fingers will just start to begin twitching a little bit all by itself now. There it is. Perfect. Or which finger might start to just, there we go, begin really jumping all by itself. But every single one of those jumps, those twitches is just an outward sign. There we go. That superconscious mind is already responding to the amazing work. There it is. That you and I are focused on getting done. So just continue to see that, but with the eyes closed now. There we go. And now don't try, Sarah. Don't try to move those fingers. And so superconscious only once every single aspect has been treated in full, and only once every last seed of transformation has been implanted in full. Only then will you bring Sarah back to full awareness at the right speed to feel refreshed, alert, but noticing how wonderful, freer, and lighter she feels in your own time, in your own way, when you're ready. Hi, welcome back.
Yeah.
You did wonderful, Sarah. What was that like?
Yeah, very, very strange, obviously, because I could hear the distractions from the noises, but I mean, I've been under hypnosis before, but that was very, 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 very different. It felt like you were just inside yourself. It's a very bizarre kind of. At first, I felt an awful lot of twitching in my face, in my eyes, um, right at the beginning, and then I just felt this really, I suppose, where all my emotions are in my stomach. I just kept on feeling this really kind of tight feeling down there.
Mhm.
But there was so many questions that were going through my head as you were saying things. It was like, yeah, it's just words. It's just other people who put their uh, values or whatever and their opinions on you, and that's why you're not doing it. I don't know. It's how I have an internal conversation with myself as well.
Yes. Well, that's it. It's because all these pieces are starting to, it's almost like an internal mediation sometimes as they all start to work together to work out, well, actually, is this a problem? Is this really what it used to be? And
Mm.
so you said something really interesting that you've been in hypnosis before, and technically, I mean, meditation is a form of hypnosis, but like you said, there is a difference between the experience. And so, what would you say the primary difference is?
Oh, this one I didn't have to do anything.
No.
I just had to listen. Whereas the other one, I had to bring up memories. It's almost like I had to be an active part, where here I was just let loose almost, and I could just do anything I wanted. And I
Yes.
didn't have to do anything either if I didn't want to.
Exactly. Okay, so again, what we're trying to do is remember the pillars of SBT: it's safety, speed, effectiveness, and fun. It's effectiveness. It's if we can get someone there faster without them having to actually go through any grueling processes, well, then why wouldn't we do that? So that's what we're doing. So again, sometimes it takes a bit of time, Sarah. Sometimes people notice differences immediately now. I'm curious, that statement, I'm not capable, 0 to 10, what number feels instinctively right now as you look for that old statement?
As in, from going at the lower down, the better it is for me.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I'd say, we're going round to a 4 or a 5 here because it's just a way of thinking, isn't it? So,
okay, perfect. Okay, so it's already dropped by half there, which is a really, really good start. Exactly what we like to see. And what about that fear of getting it wrong? 0 to 10, how true, how scary is that fear right now?
I feel like that one's a little bit higher. I'd say maybe at 6 because I feel like I've got to try it to be able to know. I feel like that was the most that I had the biggest resistance, I suppose, resistance to, or not resistance, but doubt about as I was in hypnosis.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. We'll go back to that in a moment then. In fact, we'll go back through all of them. That fear of rejection, 0 to 10, what number instinctively feels right for that one?
Do you know what? I'm not too sure whether it is all about rejection. I think it's just the emotions of really feeling. So rejection, I'd probably put that down to maybe a 3 again because I'm not quite sure whether that's actually um in here. I think it's more how other people's reactions make me feel and how they make me feel inadequate
Okay.
rather than rejected. But then are
So,
they not but the same kind of thing? I don't know.
so we said something before you went through that process there, which was really interesting, which is when things get removed, you get to see things closer for what they are. So if I've got this thing that I definitely want to tackle, once it gets treated or it gets removed, we get to, the forest fire is out now. We get to see the embers that were always behind it. And so
Yeah.
you've just given a wonderful example of that now, where beforehand you brought to the table the fear of rejection. And now you're saying, well, actually, I'm not really sure it was a fear of rejection. Because when you're saying, and you say it feels like a 3, I want to double check with that one, Sarah. Does it feel like a 3, or does just a fear of rejection not feel like it's true at all for you?
Do you think it's not true at all? I think I've got rejection because that's your normal kind of standard one everybody talks about, fear of rejection. And I suppose that's why I couldn't pinpoint it before because I wasn't too sure. And it isn't because no, it's definitely not the rejection because I know I'm all right on my own as well and I can do anything on my own. So it's not the rejection. It's that massive feeling of being wrong, inadequate, and just feeling really humiliated and stupid if I've got something wrong.
Okay, so let's go back to some of these other pieces then. So I'm not capable, 0 to 10. What number instinctively comes up for you there? I'm not capable.
I'm not capable. I'm going to go down to a 3.
Lovely stuff. So the reason I'm asking this to Sarah, by the way, over and over again is because this here is probably the most important part of the SBT process. She's gone through a process. She's tried something like hypnosis before. She could see how, okay, that kind of worked, but maybe didn't get the results that we're going to start getting here. But also, she's trying to figure out how she actually feels about this now since the process. And we have to really respect that her mind is still processing. Like literally, as we're speaking, we've just seen those numbers go from a 4 or 5 down to a 3. That will continue to go down to 0. But it's a weird feeling, especially for someone like Sarah who's going through this for the first time, because naturally she's going to be asking questions about the process. It's okay, well, yeah, it does feel lower. And I know that it should feel lower because I've just gone through this process, but why does it actually feel lower? Because I know this was actually a thing beforehand. And so when she's looking for that feeling, it's not landing the same way because her mind is literally processing all of these pieces in real time as we speak. So does that sound fairly similar to what you're experiencing right now when you're looking for it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing that just popped up into my head as you were saying all that is that one of the images, it sounds really bizarre, one of the images I got was something I did the other day. As I was out in the garden, I shouted over the fence to my neighbour to say thank you, and I thought he was there, and I'd been really brave about it, and I didn't hear anything back. And it's this feeling of embarrassment. It's this real feeling of embarrassment that I get. That I've just made this big mistake, and it's yeah.
Okay, so right now your mind is spending a little bit more time on that one. So that fear of getting it wrong, 0 to 10. When I say that statement, the fear of getting it wrong, what number comes to mind?
I'd probably say a 6.
Okay. So
Because I suppose that's the real big one, and I really feel that that's something that I can only maybe test when I've come up against a situation.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll come back to that one in a minute. What about I'm not worthy, 0 to 10? How true does that feel?
Oh yeah, well, again, I think I'm going to wipe that one off the table. Well, I'm going to say 0. Yeah.
Okay, so that fear of rejection, even the statement doesn't seem to be landing. I'm not capable. You said sort of 4, 5. What number is it now? Still a 4 or 5, or has that dropped even more?
Well, yeah, I'm going to drop it a bit more. I'm going to do a 3 because really you could do anything you really wanted to, couldn't you?
And so something that I want to be mindful of here is obviously this is the first time that you've gone through the process, and what can happen sometimes is people naturally go through something that we refer to as please the therapist.
No, it's definitely not that.
Okay.
It's definitely
Perfect.
not that.
Now,
No, because I don't want to do this. I want to get rid of this. So I'm not gonna. That no, it's definitely not on my radar. Pleasing the therapist now.
good.
It's really understanding where I am and what I'm feeling and how I am with the numbers and things.
Yes. So that's it. And do you remember when I asked you that question? Do you ever remember there being a time like I'm not capable being significantly lower in your adult life? And you said, no, actually, I
Yeah.
can't. And now you're saying it's a 3. And what's really fascinating is you said in a very haphazard way, of just very nonchalant, sorry, just, well, no, you can be capable of anything, can't you?
Well, yeah, if you put your mind to it, of course you can.
Yeah.
I suppose it's not the fact that you're not capable, it's the fact that what stops you from doing something, it's the fear of the feelings that it's going to evoke if you don't do it or you don't do it correctly.
Okay. So that there, the fear of getting it wrong, that's the part that at the moment I think that your brain is probably going to take a little bit longer to
Yeah.
process. That
Yeah,
seems to be the indented one.
it's that embarrassment, stupidity feeling.
Okay. So that's it. So that's a word that we didn't use before this piece,
No.
embarrassment, right? So again, I think some of that, and I could be wrong, but I think some of that could be related to the fact that there's a big old forest fire that we were speaking about. The forest fire started to come away, and now we're able to see with a bit more clarity. Actually, Scott, I think it's that. Right. Sometimes it's like peeling away an onion where it's actually all these things that seem to be these big problems. They're almost like the way that you're talking about them. I'm going to put something out there, Sarah, and I don't correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way that your tonality is about these now is, oh, I wish I didn't do it about those things. I wish I did
Yeah.
it about the embarrassment because these things aren't a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Oh gosh, did I just waste a session because all these things aren't actually an issue for me? It's like, no, they were an issue.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what I was thinking and feeling exactly. And now, yeah, I'm going, damn, I wish I knew it was embarrassment straight away. But how would you know it was embarrassment straight away unless you've gone through the whole process?
Exactly,
That's the
because
whole thing about it,
beforehand
isn't it?
we said, what did you want to do? You said fear of rejection. I'm not capable. I want to be able to speak my truth, all those pieces. And now it's like, oh, no, you don't understand. Scott. It was actually embarrassment that was the issue. It's like, no, these things were it. We had some tens here.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy. No, I'm knocking that off the table. Right. When was the last time that you were able to knock the idea of not being worthy just off the table?
Oh, I don't think I ever have.
Right. And so very often when we talk about SBT, and we talk about this in Superconscious University a lot, you're starting to understand subjectively for the first time what we mean by truly transformational, subjectively underwhelming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because now there's a part of you, and we always say, we know when someone has got an amazing result with a client because they get to the end of working with them and the client says, thanks for your time, but I don't really feel like this was an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Because what's starting to happen is your brain isn't going, I feel a little bit more capable now. Thanks, God, I feel a bit more confident. It's not, wow, yeah, I feel like there's a bit more self-worth. What we've done today is true identity alchemy. It's the idea of me saying, no, Sarah, do you remember? Like, you really didn't feel like you were capable. It was a 10 out of 10. And the unworthiness was like a 7 or an 8. It now feels like those things almost couldn't have been true,
Mm.
or they couldn't have been as big a deal.
Yeah, it's funny because these are the words that get bandied around an awful lot, aren't they? So they are in our conscious. They are the words that come up straight away. You know, there's just so much around with being mindful and being know that you're worthy and abandonment and rejection. There were like 5 or 6 keywords that just float around. But this is what this has shown me is that even when they're all around in the environment, you take those on board, knowing that there's something not quite right here. So we're identifying with those, even though they're not part of our identity. And this is what this session has just shown. It's the stupidity and the embarrassment. So I'm more acutely aware. I expect there's more. I don't know why I'm so embarrassed though. So, but I know that that's
We don't
the
need
feeling
to.
that I do have. That's my predominant feeling.
Okay. I want to push back on one particular thing that you said. And this just goes to show you what this process is doing. When we speak about identity alchemy, we really mean this. You're speaking as if you were incorrect about not feeling capable and having low self-worth. The way that you just said that was, I was almost an imposter for using those words when actually it was this.
Yeah.
I want to push back because those were things that you gave really high numbers for.
Yeah.
And the only reason that you gave high numbers, I said to you very, very like clearly, and this is where it's so fascinating because the brain almost can't believe it. I said, do you know how instinctively that felt really true and this thing didn't feel as true, and like you knew that it wasn't a 3? What you're doing is, I very specifically asked during that treatment to remember and recognize that you were always this.
Yeah.
Right. And the way that you're talking is, no, that was never the issue. In fact, it's probably even hard for you to really believe that was the issue. That actually, or you were skirting around the real thing, which was embarrassment. It's like, no, you came to the session with these things being things that felt true at the time.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Right. So this is what can happen a lot with clients is they end up going, oh, maybe I feel like that wasn't really the thing. It's like, no, it would have been the thing at the time through that lens. It's just because that lens it hasn't reduced. It's just not part of your life in any way whatsoever now.
Yeah.
It now no longer feels like something that we need to be thinking about or talking about because that was never really the issue. It's this thing that I want to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's exactly what it's like. It's not an issue. Don't bother talking about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so now we've reduced a lot of the forest file. We would instinctively know that in the next session, embarrassment is the thing that we would be like looking to go for all aspects related to the embarrassment and the statements and the stories related to embarrassment.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
So we're leaving this session with a weird mixture of we've absolutely got an amazing result, but almost disappointment because actually, I know all these things got treated, but what about
Well, I don't know. I'm still hopeful because if we've treated so many of those other things now and they're not an issue, then I'm hoping that that will push me forward into a situation and knowing that I'm capable, knowing that I'm worthy, will actually dampen down that feeling of embarrassment and I'll just go for it anyway. Hopefully, that's my way of thinking. I don't know.
Like that. Again, when we're working with someone, we don't normally work with them for just one session for reasons
Mm,
like this. So it'd be very easy to know, okay, the second session, the primary piece that we're looking to work towards is just that embarrassment
mm,
piece. So Sarah, I mean, obviously you've had your first taste now, subjectively. You felt obviously very, very different to hypnosis. We would consider some of these slam dunks because we were eights, tens, and they're down to, sorry, Scott, why are we talking about this? This isn't an issue anymore.
mm.
Yeah, we're not playing please the therapist. To anyone who's obviously watching this, what share how you feel about the first experience that you've had of this now.
Um, how easy it was, and I suppose what my big takeaway is, oh, this is quite hard to describe. If you are still unsure about how to describe what it is that's the real issue, you don't necessarily have to know. You can have an idea of something and you will address something and something will move out of the way. Like you said, it's like clearing the the bits around you so you can really then focus on what the real issue is.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
taking away the chatter, isn't it? It's
yeah,
taking away that other bit, that the unhelpful, am I this, am I that, am I this, am I that? And to really get down to the nitty gritty.
yeah. So obviously, you said that you've had hypnotherapy before. Have you had any other forms of therapy, like counselling or anything like that, in the past?
I've had counselling and I've had one session of RTT. Mm.
Interesting. And so, if you compare what we've just done to how many sessions, those that like, if we look at counselling, how many sessions of counselling do you think you would have needed to go through to get the result that we've seen today?
I don't think I could have done. I could have carried on and on and on and on and on. And I don't think I could have done because that is why I'm here. Because I know there's limitations on talking therapy. I just know there is. It doesn't solve. Oh, I shouldn't be so presumptuous to say that. But for me, I know it doesn't go deep enough and it doesn't go. I need extra kind of help to really address things. Because I still had all this therapy and I still don't quite know. But whereas today, I know it's that embarrassment now. So, yeah, it's just come. And that's come from being in hypnosis. Because it was this feeling inside my stomach. And that's exactly how I feel when I say something and I get the embarrassed feeling that I've said something wrong or it's not gone quite the way that I wanted to. And I could really just feel that there. I'm never going to get that with counselling. And with RTT, it did work to a certain extent. But I had to do other things as well afterwards. So I had to listen to the 30-day recordings of the evening and stuff. So you have to put extra in. But it still left me with questions.
Mm.
Whereas I feel like this is like, right, I know what I need to do now. I know what this is now, almost.
Interesting. And obviously, we've now, like, in the next session, it's like, I want to do embarrassment.
Yeah.
I don't want us to take away from the other things that you've achieved, right? Like the idea of I'm not capable being struck off the map, or I'm not worthy being struck off the map, or even that fear of rejection going, actually, it's not fear of rejection, right? These are incredible things to be able to go through. You know, when you said things like the idea of self-worth and saying, well, I've never felt like that. And I don't want you to rob yourself of those victories.
No, I'm not going to, and I don't feel like I will be doing because I suppose going back to my RTT, it was all to do with confidence around about my old business that I had about flowers, and people would say to me, "Oh, they're really beautiful," and I didn't quite believe that it was, and I still say, yeah, I was okay at flowers, but I'm not. I'm going to say, yeah, I was really rather good at flowers, where I could never still quite say that with RTT. So this fear of rejection and fear, and I can go, Actually, no, it's not rejection. I am actually worthy. We're all worthy. Absolutely. So no, there's no takeaway. It's a relief to be able to think that and feel that I am worthy. It's a relief to know that that's not sort of, is it this, is it that, going around in my head. So no, I'm very grateful that I've got rid of those.
Oh, it's been wonderful to see you without it, because even just your energy now of just
Mm.
like what are you talking about? Of course I can do that. Of course there's
Yeah.
this.
It's,
And
it's all those things that you read about, that they tell you in all the books and stuff. Just believe in yourself. And that's what I feel like I've got. That's what I feel like I actually have. It's not an issue,
yes.
not an issue, and it's just not taking up weight anywhere.
Yeah, amazing. And so, in a nutshell, then, SBT versus counseling. We know that counseling, you said it could be unlimited sessions. We wouldn't have been able to do this. In a nutshell, then, SBT against RTT, for your experience, not generally, how would you sum those differences up in a nutshell?
I'd say RTT was really quite helpful, and it was the most helpful one that I have found. Um, but I suppose myself, um, again, I only had one session though, because I was helping somebody out. Um, I I don't think I think the feeling that I've got from SBT is afterwards is like more conclusive,
Mm.
I suppose. Whereas RTT, yeah, I did get more confident, but it felt like it fizzled out over a while.
Mm.
And I suppose that's where, and I suppose this is with me with SBT. I wonder how do we make that actually last as well? But it's very hard to describe. It's just a very different feeling in the fact that rather than go, oh yeah, okay, I just think, right, yeah, fine. It yeah, okay, I can feel a bit more confident. And it's like, no, I am confident. I did do Amazing Flowers, where I still had maybe a bit of doubt, a little bit of doubt with the RTT.
Mm.
Whereas here, I don't feel like I have got the doubt.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Right.
things have cleared away a bit. And I've got rid of the chatter, and I've got rid of the doubts, I suppose.
Well, remember, that's the transformation. It's as opposed to having someone who feels low in self-worth and helping them to feel more worthy or more confident. We've just, as opposed to dialing that up, we've just gone, why don't we just go here?
Yeah.
Right? Why don't we just help you feel like someone where, why on earth would I question myself about that? It makes no sense.
Mm.
Right? And so if there's anyone on the fence who's a little bit skeptical, they think, oh, will that work for me? I'd be very tempted, but I'm still not sure. What would you say to them if they're watching this?
Oh God, just do it and just experience it, and then you'll know. It's just like, yeah, just why not? It's yeah, it's because it's so easy.
Yes.
You don't have to bring up a memory. You don't have to. You're just there. It's easier than meditating. And I suppose it's easier than even doing breath work, because I do breath work, but even breath work, I'm thinking about it. Whereas here, you do feel completely relaxed. And I think that's a lot to do with what you've said, is the fact that before the preamble, as well as you said, it can't go wrong. The only two things it can go wrong is if you resist. And I can't remember what the other one is.
It doesn't even matter. It's if you try
No,
too
it
hard.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And I think you give me the freedom of just thinking, I can just do whatever I want to do in this. And I think that was very, very helpful. And that was a big difference from other counselling as well. The impetus really was, I just had to sit here and be.
That's it. That's it. Nice and easy. That's
Yeah.
it. Safe, fast, effective, fun.
Yeah.
Right. Really, really easy in that respect. Love that, Sarah. Okay, so and you can see now why we would always offer a guarantee with our sessions when a lot of places don't. It's like if after the first session you don't feel any different, it's like just say the word and every SBT therapist will refund you. It's because you can tell very quickly whether or not something has shifted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, Sarah, thank you ever so much for that. And of course, if you're watching this, if you want to see more content like this, put a comment below. If you've got any other questions, just send us a message. But obviously, this was Sarah's first experience. You can see how happy she is against some of the other therapies that she's tried in the past. But I'll leave it there for now. Thank you ever so much for watching. So there you have it. Thank you ever so much for watching that full session that we did with Sarah there. But even though you could see that some shifts started to happen, what are the long-term results of that? Well, we filmed that several weeks ago, and that evening when Sarah attended the SBT class, it was like a different person showed up. She was the most active member in the class that evening, just asking question after question in the best possible way. We even called it out, and she laughed and said, I know it's really weird, it just feels quite easy to do. But this is a message that I received from Sarah recently, which is really wonderful to read, which is, "Hi Scott, I've just got back from a weekend staying with family and was going to message Ari our session, as throughout the weekend I've definitely noticed a continued shift. I'm just a lot more naturally confident, and the best way I can describe it is that thoughts of what I want to say aren't getting stuck in my head. They're just flowing out naturally. It's a big shift, but feels so subtle and natural. Safest, quickest, and most effective way I could go on." So remember, when we're seeing these big transformations with people, what we're seeing is extraordinary transformations, but underwhelming, because we're not taking someone who's not confident and trying to dial up the confidence. We're taking someone who's not confident and allowing them to recognize who they really are. And that it's not a profound feeling to go through. It's like remembering what you had for breakfast 2 days ago. It's like, oh, of course I can speak out. Of course I don't need to worry about those things anymore. Of course I don't need to play small or feel anxious or concerned about these things. Sarah then goes on to say, "It's also been interesting talking to my sister-in-law this weekend. She's an RTT therapist. I do think that what she does is effective, but it sounds so involved compared to SBT. She was obviously asking lots of questions, but her biggest surprise was when I described the actual hypnosis session. She said, 'Was that it? You didn't have to answer questions?' which I found interesting." Sarah then goes on to briefly mention the financial situation of her sister-in-law, which I didn't think obviously would be relevant for this video, so I've blanked that out there. But then she goes on to say, "I also listened to a very interesting podcast that Bruce Lipton was on. He has the same kind of idea as SBT, doesn't he? But doesn't have as simple a method. You need to sell SBT to him." That'd be wonderful, Bruce. If you are watching this for some reason, let's have a chat. It'd be wonderful to speak to you. Thanks for the link, and have a fab rest of the bank holiday and enjoy the sun. So that there is just an update from Sarah. As I record this, it's the 9th of September, so it's been a few weeks on since then, and Sarah's just been more and more active in the group since then as well, which has just been great to see. So that's an example of a profound but underwhelming transformation of someone remembering who they are, as opposed to having to go through the painful process of letting go and manually make these changes. Her brain knows how to heal herself much better than I as a therapist ever can, and much more than she consciously can as well. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you'd like to learn more about the process of SBT, if you maybe even feel called to start to learn these kinds of things yourself, you can just click. There'll be a link somewhere down below that I think there's a video that it will show you a little bit more about how it works. And of course, the next process of how you can become an SBT practitioner yourself. But thank you ever so much for watching this video. Have an amazing day. And I'll catch you at some point in one of our other videos, I'm sure.